Welcome to the Legion of Lean podcast, where we battle mediocrity and build the best versions of ourselves. Get ready to transform.
Welcome to the Legion of Lean podcast. I'm Don Strange. This is my co-host, Corey Eggleston. Today, we got a packed show for it. You going to say something, Corey? Go ahead, man. I'm sorry I cut you off, man.
No,
Nice
it's
shirt,
just
by the way.
no, I was just waving, hey, say
Waving
hi to
to
everybody
the
out there.
adoring fans of Seven.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Hopefully they're enjoying our content so far.
Oh, they'll love it, man. We're getting millions of people watching it. But today, we're going to talk about the nutrition blueprint. What it takes to have a body like Corey's, what it takes to have a body like mine. I look more like the Sponge Gang version of Corey, but one day I'm going to have those shredded abs again. I promise you, Corey. And if my wife has anything to do with it, I definitely will, because she says she likes the soft body. By the way, side story, at church, if you guys don't know, you got to go to the greatest church in the world, Pay Church. Me and Corey go there. Pastor David Crank in St. Louis and West Palm Beach and who knows where else. He's everywhere. But there was a guy backstage, and we were talking about fitness and nutrition, and he said to me, he had a little bit of he had like the super dad bod, not just a dad bod, it's like the super dad bod. And he said, because I was talking about being fit and everything, and the other guy was talking about being fit, and he said, really though, he said, he's like 27, not married. He said, really, women aren't really into the fit guy anymore. They're more into the dad bod guy. I said, okay, that's great, man. And then he doubled down on it. He said, no, I'm serious. I said, I know you're serious. I think you're a little delusional, but that's okay. The dad bod, women love the dad bod. Yeah, not if they if they have confidence, they don't, for sure. Anyway, I have another story, but I'm not going to tell you. We'll get into this thing.
All right.
Anyway, though, Corey, I'm just going to let you ask some questions because and also talk a little bit. Okay. So whenever it comes to nutrition, I'm just going to quiz you. What do you think the most important thing is? If you had to do one thing as far as if somebody wanted to be fit, what would you say the most important thing was? And then I will grade you to your answer of this because I coach you, and I'll grade you. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
I will say, anytime someone comes to me and says, "What can I do to try to lose some weight?" I ask, my first question is, "How much protein are you eating?"
Oh, that's a good one.
So it would be protein would be my answer. There is that you need to make sure you're hitting your protein goal, which for most people is probably too low. Their goal is probably too low. They need to increase that. And so I would say, I've said this to you and I said to a lot of people, I said, people drastically underestimate the amount of calories they eat in a day, and they will overestimate the amount of protein they eat. So if you ask them how many calories they eat, they'll probably underestimate it by 500 to 1,000 calories. Probably, maybe even more. And then if you ask them how much protein they eat, they'll probably inflate that number by 50%. And when they actually track it, it could be anywhere, they may be only getting 50 grams of protein a day, which, I get that before 7 a.m.
You're so true. You're so right. I read something, and I hate giving false facts, but I'm going to spread the fact that I don't know if it's for sure or not, right or not. I thought I read it today or yesterday that most people get less than 70 grams of protein in a day.
I would totally believe it.
And back to Corey's point, is protein is the most important macronutrient. It's the macronutrient of rapid body composition transformation. It's the macronutrient of longevity because it builds muscle mass, which is the organ of longevity. And this is what I tell you about, you need a minimum of 1 gram of protein per pound of preferred body weight. That's the starting point. And most people don't get that. In fact, even Corey, whenever I start with somebody because they're so low, I typically can't get them there real quick. It takes some baby steps to get them to that point. But you're exactly right. And actually you hit on the point. I would say the number one thing I tell people for first anything, if I'm just coaching them and to get them in the right frame of mind. You said protein is not most important. That's exactly right. But then you touched on what I would say the first thing to do. You said people underestimate what they eat. I think the most important thing that people need to do is track their food.
Yeah.
Because they have and track every bite. If you're not tracking, you're just guessing.
Yeah.
And your body is going to look like it's guessing, to be honest with you. You're
Yeah.
going to have a body like that guy that had the mega dad body, right? You're going to be a woman that looks more like a grapefruit than, the
And,
hourglass figure they want.
and yeah, and
It's
I mean, I get, I tell people, I say, get a little scale off Amazon for $10, weigh your food, your
yeah,
meats, measure your carbs, your rice, your potatoes, whatever that may be. And like for me, I mean, no, I weigh my food every day, but I know I don't track it every day because I still eat just about the same thing every single day.
yeah.
Um, and kind of, I'm not saying that, I'm at this like stellar, you know, higher, body shape than everybody else.
Nah, you
But
are. That's a
I
show.
can.
That's ridiculous. You're in the top 0.1% of the population. That's the truth. And so I
I
like I
can.
like the home humility here. But to me, it sounds like false humility because I don't look like you. I'm gonna look like you, though. Of course,
So I can. I do when I'm not prepping, right? So for the past 10 months, right, I was prepping for my show, and so the cheat meals were few and far between. And when I say cheat meals, not cheat days, right? So you got to
right.
remember that too, is that some people, oh, well, I've done so good Monday through Friday, Saturday night or Saturday, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do whatever I want, which some people can get away with that. And so I would say, like with me, like for a weekend, if for lunch or maybe a dinner or something, I go out and we do whatever. I go to a barbecue or we go out for pizza or whatnot. My body's kind of at a place where that doesn't affect it all that much because I just get right back on track. But if you're at the beginning of your fitness journey, I tell people the 80-20 rule. Some people say 90-10. I think 90-10 is a little too strict for people that
Rigid.
are getting
Yeah.
started. I think the 80-20 rule. And so I was just talking to someone at church the other day. I said 80-20, so 80% of your meals, which breakfast and lunch, let's go there. Eat your breakfast and lunch, prep your meals. And I always tell people start with prepping lunches because lunch is the thing where you feel like you're too busy. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grab something, right? You're not going to have time to prepare something. So prep your lunches, whether it's chicken, beef, ground turkey, whatever it may be. And so now you've got your portion control in front of you, whatever you're eating of, and your macros. So hey, I just ate 45 grams of protein. I just
Yep.
ate 60 carbs, whatever it may be. And so that's the big thing. And then you can try to continue that momentum. And that's what it is. It's consistency and momentum because you get up in the morning, maybe you go for a walk, right? You have a good breakfast. You're feeling good. You got the energy now. So
Yeah.
you got that nutrition in you, whether it's hopefully some eggs, maybe some yogurt with some fruit, something like that. And so you've got that natural energy. And so now you're motivated. And so I can't stress it enough. I know some people, they are like, I cannot go work out in the morning. And I say, try it for 5 days and just
Yeah.
see how much more natural energy you have for the rest of the day. And you can still have your coffee and whatnot, but I just think that if you can get up and take care of the hard stuff early, it does
Mhm.
something to your mentality that you can then take on anything else that might come at you in the day. And let's be honest, we all have bad days, and so 5 o'clock rolls around or 4 o'clock when you get off work, and you just had a day, right? It was rough. Last thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to the gym, and so or go for a
Absolutely.
walk or
There you
whatever it may
go.
be.
You're hitting
So
on a point
yeah,
there.
so I think it's very important to take care of those things early, and then start out on the right foot. But yeah, the nutrition aspect, like I said, so once you get the momentum going, then you can say, oh, like you can dial it back a little bit. But we talked about this last week, right? It's a grind, man. You got to grind it out for a little while and get where you need to be. And then you can kind of dial it back because you know what it takes to get to a certain point or get to the point that you want to be at.
Yeah. I like that you said that people say they can't work out in the morning. I love that. I mean, they don't even work out, period, right? That probably those, I can't work out in the morning. Okay, but you can't work out at night either. When can you work out? It's got to be a priority. I, I'll be honest with you. If I don't work out in the morning, it doesn't get done because priorities that are actually of lesser value take precedence over working out. And so, me as a
Yeah.
coach, it's like, yeah, I get past noon, it ain't happening. I don't want to beat the crowd. I don't want to go in the evening because there's too many people there. I'll say, no, I'm
Yeah.
just going to
No, I
skip. I'll go
agree.
tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so I totally agree with you. But the gym is busy at night too. I would say number one, work out whenever, work out whenever you can. Obviously, this is not out of the book of Matthew. What he's saying, it's not the Bible. As far as this is a fact, you have to go in the morning. But I'm full board with you. Most people should. You got to. There's an old saying. It's actually a Mark Twain saying, if you only had one hard thing to do, if you only had to eat a frog one time a day, when would you eat? First thing in the morning. Actually, Brian Tracy, the motivational speaker, he put the book out. He eat that frog. And so if you don't want to work out, do it first thing, get it over with. In a way, it's not hanging over your head because most
Yeah.
people are sedentary. Most people don't walk around. We don't live in it. We don't have manufacturing anymore. Not like we used to. Everybody sits behind a desk. We're doing
Yep.
this kind of stuff on the phone. Even me as a trainer, most of my clients I talk to on the phone. I don't touch them one on one. And because of
Yeah.
that, I could be very sedentary if I don't get up and walk a little bit. I work out in the morning, but you can work out in the morning and not do anything the rest of the day. So
Yeah.
at least get that in. That's the most
Yeah.
important thing. All right,
For
but I'm
sure.
going to follow up on this, Corey. I'm going to just quiz you again. It's going to be really hard for you, by the way. You're going to be like,
Okay.
oh, I'm going to go back to a story. I was teaching a nutrition class several years ago. I was talking about macros. And I like the fact that what you've said so far is very practical. I've been doing this for so long. Sometimes I'm not practical because my mind is way over here. I'm thinking, this. This is easy.
Yeah.
But people don't know what I know. I've been doing this 20 years. I was teaching nutrition class, back to the story. And every week I talk about the macronutrients. There's three macronutrients: carbs, fat, and protein. And then people think alcohol is a macronutrient. No, it's you know what I'm saying? It's 7 calories, per gram, but it's not a
Yeah.
nutrient. So you got three of those. And every time I started this 7 week course on nutrition, I'd start out with the class and I'd say, okay, raise your hand if you know what a protein is. Raise your hand. There's always one girl that answered. She knew everything. She knew more than me. At least she thought she did. So she'd raise her hand, and she was very happy to tell me what proteins were. And then carbs, whatever it was. Well, like the fourth week, and I went over it, Corey. It's just very basic stuff. I went over the same stuff because you got to build a foundation. You got to hear stuff
Mhm.
many times. I think it's like 17 times before it gets in your brain.
Okay.
That could be a number I pulled up from nowhere. I think 17 is resonating with me. Might not be.
Okay.
Regardless, you got to hear it a lot of times. And so every week, Corey, I'd get on this thing and I would say, okay, we'd go over like protein, what protein sources are, what carb sources are, what fat sources are. Week like 5. Now, I beat it in them, Corey. I've told them every freaking week. This is so easy. I don't even want to do it because it's like, this is like brain dead. It's like, if you don't know what it is right now, you're not eating carbs, you're not eating fats, you're not eating protein, you're eating crayons because you don't have a brain. Yeah, that's what I was thinking after week 5. But I'm still doing it because my wife
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
says, start with the basics, get the basics. Because she's right. People just need the basics.
Yeah.
Anyway, week 5, I said, so the smart girl raised her hand whenever I said, tell me what a carb is. Anybody know what a carb is? And she raised her hand. I said, not you, man. You're great, man. You know everything. Now you are smart, but you need to be teaching a class. I said, John, I don't know what his name was. We'll go with John. I said, John, um, what's a carb? And he said, chicken. I said, man, that's a good guess, but that is not right. That is not right. Just for people to me and you, and it's like, you know it. You know what a carb is. You know what a fat is. I'll tell you what. If it for a protein, it's pretty easy. If it don't move, clack,
Yeah.
run, or fly, it's probably not a protein. But you
Exactly.
tell people, just give people some basics. What a carb, fat, and protein is. I know it's basic for you, but I mean, if you're actually, what's funny, if you're serious about being a competitor like Corey, you probably are above this. But some people might not know what that is. Corey, tell me what those are. Tell me what the best sources are too. What you think the best sources of each one of those are.
Protein.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for me, I stick with beef and
I love
chicken.
beef. I love beef.
Beef and chicken are my two. Ground turkey every once in a while. Not as much. So I mean, if you want to go very, very lean, you can get like 99.1 ground turkey. And so I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting, almost zero fat from there. So if you're trying to go
Yeah.
very lean, but for me, and my goals, I need the fats. And
Yep.
so I get that from the beef. So I can go 85-15 beef. I can even go 80-20 beef sometimes. And so that's going to give me the necessary fats without adding any fat in. So I don't have to add in any oils or things like that.
Mhm.
And then chicken, I would say, is also a lot leaner. So you're going to get, but you're still going to get a lot of protein. It's very protein dense. Fish, obviously very lean as well, but I'm not a fish person at
Yeah.
all.
Me neither.
So yeah, so chicken and beef are the two that I really, and I would say probably most people stick to. I think those are the two most
Oh
common
yeah.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. whenever we look, also, it's interesting you said it because people are like, yeah, we don't want beef, we don't want eggs because it's all cholesterol. What's fascinating is if you have a hormone issue, you probably need beef, you probably need eggs, you
Yeah.
probably need avocados, you need some good fats.
Yeah.
So anybody's got a hormone issue, it's so funny because we pull out red meat and we tell people not to eat eggs. Now, everybody's got a hormone problem. Well, one of the reasons why is because saturated fat was looked at as like it's the devil in the room. It's really not the devil.
Yeah.
You got to have saturated fats to create hormones because saturated fats have cholesterol. I mean, cholesterol is the catalyst to build all with pregnenolone to build every hormone in the body. And so why do people not all don't have great hormones right now? I think is because highly processed foods, no red meat, no eggs, no butter. We just like, oh, that's awful. I grew up and it was margarine. Margarine was supposed to be good. You can't put it in the
Yeah.
refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yellow, and it's like
Yeah.
anyway. So I
It's
would,
yeah, and I think that's kind of like what you get at now is it's like when people went to fats are bad, carbs are bad, meat's bad, not all meat, but red meat's bad, that's when they went to like the processed things, right?
oh
Well, hey,
yeah, man.
you can have these eggs and they're cholesterol free. Well, that's not an egg then, right?
Yeah,
Or like, you can or this is low fat or no fat, right? So but
yeah.
if it's something that's
Well,
supposed to have fat in it, right? So that means that it's been ultra processed. So that's kind of when I feel like that turn
I
happens of these high, blood pressure, things like that, high cholesterol. But it's like if you look back at it, what was it in the 70s or the 60s, whenever before all the cholesterol medicine came out, 300 was like normal, right? That was
yeah,
normal. And now if you're over 100 and they're like, oh my gosh, or 150,
gotta give it a
you gotta
statin.
take it down. And
Yeah,
so, and so, we've talked about this before. What does that boil down to? Well, who controls everything, right? I mean, it's big pharma. And so they're pushing
yeah,
those prescriptions on people because they want to make people believe that they need those, which, some people may not. I'm not here to say, who's right, who's wrong. But,
yeah,
so unfortunately, I think that's kind of like where we're at now. But I do believe that people are getting back to the whole food diet. So you've got people, social media, right? You've seen people with the carnivore diet, and people ripping it, saying this is
yeah.
ridiculous. You shouldn't do this. People saying it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I think Joe Rogan did a whole podcast about it, saying that he ate
Mhm.
meat, he ate steak and eggs every day for a month, and he said he lost like 15 pounds, never felt better. His energy was through the roof. And so, but I think I'm more of like um, an animal-based diet, I guess you would say. So where it's a lot of meat, right?
Yeah.
And fruits, things like that, a lot of eggs. And then so my fruit, a lot of my carbs will come from fruit too throughout
I
the
love
day.
fruit.
So pieces of fruit. And that's the other thing. I don't know if I've said this before. So I teach elementary PE, right? So I'm a PE
Yeah.
teacher. So I like the fact that I feel like the kids take what I have to say seriously, right? So I try to walk.
I hope you enjoyed the Legion of Lean podcast. Stay lean, hit subscribe, and join us next time.